All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that covers nearly a third of our planet, but we often take for granted: forests. They're so much more than just a bunch of trees. They are our shared lifeline. And in this explainer, we're going to explore their incredibly complex world and, really, why our future is so directly tied to theirs. You've probably heard this powerful metaphor before. Forests are the lungs of the earth. And you know what? It's spot on. It perfectly captures just how critical they are. I mean, they're in this constant life-sustaining exchange. They literally breathe in the carbon dioxide we produce and breathe out the oxygen we all need to survive.
But that leads to a really crucial question. What happens when they can't breathe? Because this planetary life support system, it's under some serious pressure. So let's really get into it. What happens when that lifeline starts to break down?
Okay, so to really get the full picture of the threats, we've got to look a little deeper. A forest isn't just a pretty landscape. Think of it more like a powerful living engine. An engine that's driving some of our planet's most critical systems. Yeah, a dynamic, living entity. I think that's the perfect way to put it. We have to forget this idea of a forest as just some quiet, static place. It's not. It's more like a bustling city, right? A super complex, interconnected community of plants, animals, and microorganisms, all working together.
And their importance, well, it really boils down to three absolutely critical jobs they do for the planet. There are climate regulators, our water managers, and our biodiversity banks. Let's break down each one of those.
So first up, climate regulation. This is huge. When we cut down or damage forests, the impact is massive. Deforestation and forest degradation account for something like 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, just to put that into perspective, that is more than every single car, truck, plane, and ship on the entire planet combined. That's staggering. Okay, next, their job is water managers. A healthy forest basically acts like a giant sponge. Its canopy and its complex root systems, they slow down rainfall, giving it time to soak into the ground and recharge our water tables. Now, you take that away, that water has nowhere to go. It just runs right off, and that leads to soil erosion and, you guessed it, really dangerous floods. And finally, there are biodiversity banks. This fact is just mind-blowing to me. Forests are home to over half of all life on land. Think about that. From the tiniest microscopic fungi all the way up to the largest mammals, these ecosystems are pretty much the planet's main vault for life.
So, okay, we've established that these ecosystems are absolutely essential, which leads to a really tough question, right? If they're so critical, why on earth are we losing them at such an alarming rate? Well, the scale of the loss it's just staggering. We lose an estimated 18.7 million acres of forest every single year. To help you visualize that, it's like watching 27 soccer fields just vanish every single minute. And this is happening year in, year out. So what's driving all this destruction? Well, the answer is pretty clear. It's overwhelmingly agriculture. If you look at the Amazon, for instance, cattle ranching all by itself is responsible for a whopping 60% of deforestation. Then you add in other types of farming, both big and small, and that accounts for most of what's left. And of course, this has huge, huge implications for our climate. All that land use change, which is mostly driven by deforestation, makes up 23% of all greenhouse gas emissions globally. That makes it the #2 biggest source, pumping out more emissions than all industrial processes and waste combined. So you can see how all of this is building towards a really dangerous scenario, a world with fewer and fewer trees. And the consequences, well, as we're about to see, they're basically a devastating reversal of all those amazing benefits we just talked about. I mean, look at this contrast. It could not be more stark. On one hand, you have a healthy forest. It's a climate stabilizer, a water regulator, a cradle for life. But a deforested landscape, it becomes the exact opposite. It's a source of carbon emissions, a catalyst for floods and droughts, and a driver of mass extinction. And these aren't just abstract ideas. These consequences are real. They mean animals literally losing their homes,
They mean entire human communities being completely devastated by floods. And that's a direct result of losing the forest's natural ability to manage all that rainwater. Scientists at the Center for International Forestry Research warn about what they call a nightmare scenario. It's something called a positive feedback loop, and it's a really scary concept. Here's how it works. A warmer climate leads to more forest fires. Those fires release tons of carbon into the atmosphere. That extra carbon makes the climate even warmer, which in turn leads to even more fires. It's a dangerous, self-perpetuating cycle. But look, this isn't a story that has to end in disaster. There is hope here. This problem is not unsolvable. There are clear, actionable things we can do, from the big picture global level right down to the choices we make in our own daily lives. So at the international level, you've got these frameworks like REDD+. The core idea behind it is actually pretty simple, but it's really powerful. It's about using financial incentives to make a living, standing forest more valuable economically than clearing the land for something else. And this is where you come in, because our individual actions matter so much. We can vote with our wallets every day by choosing certified products. We can use our voices to demand better, more sustainable practices from companies. We can support the incredible organizations that are out there on the front lines. And hey, we can literally get our hands dirty and go plant some trees. Each one of these actions, when it's multiplied by millions of people, creates real, powerful change. Ultimately, the key takeaway is, well, it's stated pretty plainly right here by the Tree Foundation. Humans will not survive without forests. Period. It's as simple and as serious as that. Our fates are completely tied together. So we know the forest is this dynamic, living thing. We know our own future depends entirely on its health. You could say the forest is calling out for our help. And that leaves us with just one final question. How are we going to answer that call?